Hello, 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 everybody. This is Renault, the avatar of integrity within Comicsgate. And today, I want to thank you for tuning in today because this is a very special treat. For those who don't know or can't read, today I'm going to be doing a review of this comic, Mr. Beaver. Excited? Me too. Let me just do an introduction. So Mr. Beaver is a comic written by Verdugo Munoz, inked by Exposito, inked and colored to the artwork by Exposito, and lettered by Mathams. Now, what actually drew me to this book was the fantastic online presence of one Mr. Ben Slabak. Now, Ben Slabak has, he did a series through Alterna called Exilium, which is Latin for the exiled, or exiled. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, but I read that series. Slabak wasn't a jerk online. I will say that my standards for me to check out your book are pretty low. Don't run a block bot. Don't call me some sort of alt-right Yahtzee on Twitter, and if I like your work, I'll check it out. But I found that a good half of the people that are making comics today, they don't meet that minimum standard, and so that's fine by me. It really helps me save money. It gives me more time to scope out people who aren't jerks. So thanks for running block bots. It means I don't have to worry about trying to figure out whether your work is good or not, because I do not do the whole separate the art from the artist. If you're a jerk, I'm not going to check out your work. It's really that simple. So going back to Mr. Beaver, as you can clearly see, this is our intrepid hero. One, seek Mr. Beaver. You can see from this cover that he's a police or a cop or some sort of special agent, and that he's a beaver. It's pretty straightforward. Now, I don't typically buy digital comics, but Action Lab, as you can see up here to the top left, they're a smaller, newer publisher, and when I went to pick up this book, my comic shop owner said that sometimes you have to have your pre-orders in almost a month ahead of time. And so Action Lab has a long lead time because they do a very precise run. They are not printing extras. And again, that's just a money-saving venture. I understand it. So when I ordered this book, it was not ordered far enough ahead of time for me to get it. So issue number 1, I had to get it digital. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get it at all. And that's just the truth of it. So, Action Lab, by the way, they have a lot of other good works. I haven't checked out any of the other ones. Like I said, I was only drawn to this book because Ben Slabak is not a jerk online. And yes, that may seem like some sort of not a big deal, but in the comics industry, not being a jerk online by running a block bot or calling me an alt-right Yahtzee, I swear that's the reason why 75% of the time I'm not buying your work. You've done some variant of one of those two things. So let's just go on to the next page. Let's see if I got that right. Created, written, and illustrated by Pablo Munoz. Sorry about that. I got the credits mixed up a little bit. It is colored by Exposito. It's still lettered by this guy. And like I said, this is a good dude. Now, this is something that doesn't come across very often. Dialogue edited by Nicole De Andrea. And that's because, as you can tell, these two individuals may not necessarily have the strongest English. That's okay. Respect. And in fact, that's actually a good thing because the American comic industry has been decimated by just American creators being jerks. So But, syntax, conjugation, etc., etc. The From English to Spanish, it doesn't necessarily come across perfectly. And by the way, I want to point out that Nicole DeAndrea, she's pulling double duty here because the dialogue is edited by Miss Nicole DeAndrea. But if you go down a little bit, Nicole DeAndrea is also, where is she? Here's the marketing director and editor. So again, they're doing double duty because it's such a small publishing house. This is cute. Chad Ciccone is the president of Beaver Relations, and Sean Pryor is the president of Creator Relations. And by the way, Jessica Lowry, kudos on having a social media czar or a policy that says don't call your paying customers alt-right Yahtzees. I keep going on that because it's something that would be common sense, but apparently, yeah. So next time, you just think about the last time you were in Walmart and one of the store managers or the clerks or a cashier just walked up to you and said, "Ew, you're a Nazi." Just think about that. Now think about the comic book industry. Anyway, I actually have some notes here because normally with a physical book, I can just very easily skip pages and go to where I want. For digital, I don't want to have to scroll and accidentally reveal the whole comic and wind up accidentally getting a copyright strike. So I have some notes here. I'm going to skip to page 4. So we are introduced to Mr. Beaver. And it goes a little something like this. But then you have those He's talking about the types of criminals there are. There's the low-level dregs who get caught very easily and very quickly. Hold on. Let's do that. And do this. Sorry, I don't really do digital very often, so I'm doing some of this stuff on the fly. There's no reason to see the taskbar. It cuts off some of the art, but it'll have to do. Like I said, you don't have to see my the taskbar up there. Anyway, so it's Mr. Beaver. We're introduced to him. He's talking about the types of criminals that there are. There's 2 types. The ones that are dregs, they're easily caught and punished. But then you have those slippery and elusive ones. The ones who think they're untouchable. The ones that routinely go unpunished. Unpunished until today, that is. So looking at this again, it's kind of setting the tone for this book. He's kind of mysterious. I mean, this doesn't last long, but it's setting up that introduction. He's kind of mysterious. He's going to make people pay. But what I find interesting for a narrative standpoint is that he's kind of walking through this dangerous alley. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's no big deal walking through a dangerous alley. I do that all the time. It's something you do. But think about how you're taught to grow up, Stay away from those dark alleys, because anything can happen. He's not worried about that sort of thing. Because, well, we can also guess what's going to happen if somebody did try to pull something with him. But it kind of just sets up, without saying any kind of words, a little bit of his personality trait. Which is, he's not really afraid of danger. He's not staying on the beaten path where it's all well lit. He's going through this dark alley to get where he needs to go. So anyway, my notes say to go to page 7. And we are introduced to a couple of people. And this is the chief. He's letting this person, who is Detective Cage, know that she's going to have a partner. Her partner is going to be known simply as Mr. Beaver. And she finds the name utterly ridiculous. But again, it's probably a code name, to be honest. But anyway, Beaver. He's a graduate of a very special school with skills that we badly need. I believe he'll be instrumental in our efforts to clean up the city. We can't screw this up, and that's why I need you, and only you, to have contact with him. But why me, Chief? I'm just a rookie. Well, that's the second reason. I'd like you to take this opportunity and learn everything you can from him. I see a lot of potential in you, and as of now, you and Mr. Beaver are partners. A partner? That sounds great. Now, I do have to mention, there's two things I noticed about this. The chief, who's this guy, doesn't have a little name tag. He doesn't have a name. Usually there would be like lieutenant, well, actually chiefs are rarely lieutenants, but commander, boss man, or commander dude, or whatever. There would be a little name here, just to show him what his name is. That's something that would usually be right here. And that's because she may know who he is, but on very rare occasion, he does have to entertain guests. And if he has to entertain guests, they need to know who the hell he is. And they can't do that if he doesn't have his name tag. So that's a little bit of thing. No big deal, but look at this beaver. It's so cute. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, okay, he's a graduate of a very special school. Okay, never mind. I always read that as he's a recent graduate. But it doesn't say recent graduate. What I was going to point out is that if he's a recent graduate and she's a rookie, then there's going to be command structure problems from a new graduate and a rookie, but that's not the case. It doesn't say he's a recent graduate. He just says he's a graduate. So one thing I want to mention is that Comixology is garbage. Because look, for no reason, there's this crease line here. Hey, crease line. That's right here. I don't know if it shows up. Why is this here? Oh. Okay, so that's what this line is. And if you go to the left of this, it'll take you to the previous page. I don't see anything like that on the right, though. Yeah. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, there is. I just noticed that. Wow, Comixology, I hate you. But without you, I never would have gotten this book. So, you're a necessary evil, but you're still garbage. You're like Diamond... Comixology, you are the Diamond distribution of comics, I guess. You kind of sort of have... Look, what is this crease line? I can understand the one on the left and the one on the right, because if you go to the left, it'll go to the previous page. If you go to the right, it'll take you to the next. What is this one in the middle? Why is there this crease line in this digital comic right here in the middle? I swear, I did not notice this thing in the middle until just now. I didn't notice these crease lines until doing this review. Wow. Comixology is just as bad as your boy Zach says. And Comixology is the Diamond distribution of comics. You kind of sort of have a little bit of a monopoly, and your service is garbage. And that's the only reason why you're in business. Now, my notes say that I need to switch to page 9. So I'm going to do that. And we get some more about Mr. Beaver. And this, holy crap, does this stand out. Anyway, Mr. Beaver finally gets to his hotel. His hotel room or motel room is kind of a pigsty, but it's perfect for him. He has no problem with it. And so all he has is a briefcase. The contents of my suitcase are the same as the contents of my heart. A few good memories, and the rest, hate and bitterness, bloodlust and revenge. Okay. Well, figured there'd be a change of clothes in there. Come on. Anyway, so it just kind of shows you a little bit of a backstory about who he is, but it's kind of shrouded in mystery. Mr. Beaver is an angry man, and he's looking for revenge. And the dialogue really the minimalist dialogue, might I add. The minimalist dialogue lets us know, it can say a lot. Now, if this were a Marvel comic or a DC comic, there'd be about 20 pages here, 20 words here, 20 words here, 20 words here. This would be a short novella, and this would all be text. Yeah, it would just be a short novel. If instead we get a few words that are well done, just letting us know that this is one angry beaver. And it says to go to page 9 and page 10. So let's go to page 10. That's right. Okay. So I am Mr. Beaver. My life purpose to track down and eliminate each of, quote, the 12. Now, there's a dual meaning behind the 12. At least I suspect there is. They flaunted justice for too long. Now, as you can see, each one of the 12 appears to resemble a symbol in the zodiac, the Greco-Roman Western zodiac. Because I know there's like Chinese zodiacs and other types of zodiacs. This is the one we're all most familiar with. But more importantly, I wanted to mention that The 12 is another series by Alterna Comics. And go ahead and check out Insider Magazine, where I write Alterna comic reviews. See, shameless plug. I work that in seamlessly. So again, these tattoos, I'm not quite sure how tattoos work, or if these are scars or what. But I'm not quite sure how that works on animals, because wouldn't the fur kind of cover these up? Think about it. Unless it's kind of like burned in, where even if the fur would not cover it up. Beavers don't have thick fur, so I guess I'm on a nonsense point. Let's go to the next page. My notes say that I should go to page 13. So this isn't so bad. Alright, so here's the chief. Mr. Beaver, Chief Gomez here. Settled in? Perfect. I'll send for you shortly. What a pro, Slam. But Chief, we're dealing with a group of armed assailants. This Sojourner's called more than just one man to... He's not any man, detective. Like I mentioned, he was trained at a very special institution known as the Alpha Academy, where many apply but few are accepted. Even fewer go on to graduate. Those that do leave with extraordinary skills, they become the most ruthless vigilantes you'll ever come across. So, I mean, it's a kind of interesting and a cool setup. My only problem is, if it's such an elite school that has so few people graduate, you don't want to have a lot of people in the background. Like, I understand it might be very hard in elite school, but you might want to have just maybe 2 or 3 people or something like that, you know? Not this gigantic crowd. Kinda takes away from the moment. So anyway, the situation here is that he's just received a report that there's going to be an armed break-in at a bank, and so it needs to be handled. Normally, that's a very big deal. You require several SWAT teams because people take bank robberies very serious. And by the way, the whole banks being full of money, that's actually a thing of the past. When I was setting up a business a long time ago, my account executive told me that, we don't really keep any money here because the banks were just tired of getting robbed, and they were tired of being at risk of being robbed. So they don't actually keep a lot of money in the banks. The money is kept in, like, armored trucks. So anyway, just a point. Wait a minute. Those crease lines. I don't know if it's because of the art, but I can't see them. Anyway, my notes say to go to page 15. Oh, but to skip. And so what that means is that this is Agent Cage or Rookie Cage, and she meets up with Mr. Beaver as they head to the site or the bank that's being robbed. They meet up, and Mr. Beaver does the thing that most people do when they're a badass, they're like, I don't want any partners. I don't do partners. She's like, but I am your partner. I can get you whatever you need. Men, SWAT, weapons, whatever you need. And so I actually know that page. And so Mr. Beaver just points to his head and says, everything I need, it's right up here. It's kind of a cliche trope where the guy says, I don't do partners. I don't want any partners. And it turns out that, either the partner got killed or his partner betrayed him. It's a bit cliche, but, what are you going to do? It kind of sets up the story so well. This does not do the setting up the I don't need no partners kind of trope very well. It's all kind of predictable, but that's okay. I mean, that's just how it goes. Hell, he probably got betrayed by one of his partners at this academy that has hundreds of graduates. I know I kid, but I mean, I can't help but point it out. It's supposed to be really elite, but you got all these people here. It's funny. Now, my notes say to go to page 18 and possibly 19 and 20. Let's do that now. Oh. Okay. Yeah, we missed some action. So, Mr. Beaver, he jumps out as they head to the bank. Mr. Beaver jumps out of the helicopter. He crashes through a window, and he's ready to move into action. They hear the glass breaking. That's a bad move, Mr. Beaver. You need to be stealthy. So far, I've read 2 comics in 2 days, and they both had an element of stealth that was totally ruined. So this guy who's in charge says, Johnny, check it out. And this is apparently Johnny, who's obviously going to be killed, but it's a matter of how, and he's on it. So here's Mr. Beaver. He's ready to move into action. Wait. Clear. Wait. I hear footsteps. Tap, 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 tap. You can see he's hearing it through his beaver ears. This will come in handy. He's going to make coffee? Oh no, he unplugged it. Just kidding. So he's doing the thing with some rope here, and this is kind of intriguing. What's he going to do? Let's go to the next page. So, talk, talk. Oh, Johnny, don't you know you're being led into a trap? Talk, talk. So he hears something. Let's check it out. Oh, Johnny's getting wrecked. Oh no. Oh, poor Johnny. He's getting majorly electrocuted. He's getting electrocuted to death. Or to the pain. That's just awful. Very clever, Mr. Beaver. You had to create sufficient distraction so that it would attract Johnny, but that Johnny would not kick the door open, and instead would grab the handle. See, I can notice little things like that. If Johnny had just kicked the door open in this kind of situation, this clever situation here would not have worked. And or you could have tried to remain silent, and then Johnny would have just walked right by, but then that would not have done you any good, would it, Mr. Beaver? So let's just, there's one more thing I do want to point out. Again, I've been talking about stealth here. Let's see what happens next. There are 2 kinds of criminals, but they're all garbage. Stains that must be scrubbed clean. Who are you? Who am I? Who am I? I'm a man who repeats himself. Nah, just kidding. I am society's washing machine. He's not saying this, by the way, he's just thinking it. Hey, wait! Doom just guns him down. Now, this is a pretty interesting establishing shot, because this lets us know that this is not a hero. Mr. Beaver is not going to try and convince you to not be a bad guy. He's just going to take this... I don't know what kind of gun it is. I was going to say AK-47, but I'm not familiar with it enough to try and make that kind of a guess. And he's going to take this shotgun and ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta on your ass while you're down and helpless. Now, the other thing is that this shows us that he's kind of a merciless killing machine. So, but, you know, I do have a problem with this scene right here, though. Earlier I was talking about stealth. Mr. Beaver does not know how many people are robbing this bank. Mr. Beaver has eliminated his own element of surprise by just unloading into this guy. Now, I'm assuming that we saw earlier, did Mr. Beaver have a silencer with his gun? Let's check it out. He does. He does have a silencer. I'm assuming this is a silencer. So Mr. Beaver did not have to unload into that guy. He has a silencer right here. And using this pistol with the silencer, that would have been a smarter move. I understand you gotta showcase that Mr. Beaver is quite the badass, but, you know, you can't have this gun with this silencer and then just going full AK-47 on someone, because you don't know how many guys there are. And that's going to actually come up later, because let's just leave it at that. Now, my notes say to go to page 24, so let's go ahead and do that. Oh, Comixology, why can't you just... Thank you. So another guy hears the ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and he investigates. Because, you know, the clever thing to do is to investigate one at a time. And so as this other guy investigates, he spots Mr. Beaver. Mr. Beaver runs and kind of gets away. And he used these shoes as a distraction. And so this guy sneaks up on the shoes and he's like, I gotcha. Oh, but he doesn't. It's a distraction. Mr. Beaver has him from behind. Blah, 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 blah. You just see him, Mr. Beaver, unloading on this guy in the back. Again, shooting someone in the back, that's not very heroic. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, per se. But, because he's a guy who's doing what he needs to do, but, ouch. Ooh, he is one cold-blooded killer, shooting this guy in the back, like that. Now, before we continue on to this, heh, long time no see, Rupert. Huh? Who the? Ooh. How do you know my name? Now, I do want to mention that let's just go back to something I want to point out. When Mr. Beaver was being a little badass with the whole electrocution thing. What was it, page 18? Here we go. Let's go back a little bit. To, no, 18. Page 18. Comixology, please. When I saw Mr. Beaver, no. Hold on. When I saw Mr. Beaver taking the thing here, breaking it off, chewing through it, and like this, I thought he was going to use this as a garrote, you know, to put it around somebody's neck and kill them and suffocate them by cutting off the air. That would have been much better than his trick with the whole electricity. You know? Because again, like I mentioned, this guy who came up to investigate, if he had just kicked the door open, Mr. Beaver has his gun, but he never uses it in this issue. He just whips it out. So I thought he was going to use this as a garrote, and not the electricity. So it shows that Mr. Beaver is clever, but I think I might be cleverer than you, Mr. Beaver. So I just wanted to point that out before we go in too deep. So anyway, the boss guy just referred to Mr. Beaver as Rupert. And Mr. Beaver does not like the sound of that. Blam, 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 blam. Oh. Oh, we've got some deflection out of, well, not quite out of the, well, yeah, this is kind of out of the Matrix. You can't hurt me with your bullets. You can't hurt me with your gun. Mr. Beaver is out of bullets. And so, who is this? How is he using those lamps? Theo's lamp? See? Like that? Theo's. How is he using Theo's Lampsey like that? I guess this is a fighting technique. How is he using Theo's Lampsey like that? Or maybe it's Latin. There's a reason why people tell you to take Latin, or at least in the old school, people would take Latin. Because, man, I would probably know what Theos Lampsey is. I would also be familiar with a lot of legal and medical terminology. So anyway, the boss guy is like, hey, take it easy, man. And I do like how Mr. Beaver hid behind the wall for cover, because he does not know if this person is going to return fire. So I like how after he ran out of bullets, he hid. That's clever. That's no way to treat an old friend. So 24, 25, and then 27. Just for old time's sake, consider yourself lucky, Mr. Beaver. They clearly know each other. But the next time you get in my way, I'll kill you. And he leaves a little calling card for dramatic flair. And then jumps off. And here's the card. Boom. The first symbol. This person is a member of the 12. Now, I think this is the Aries symbol from the Zodiac. And we are to be continued. So, that was Mr. Beaver. It's very fast-paced. I was a little bit thrown off by how fast-paced it was. But again, that's because I'm so used to, taking 12 issues in a comic to have like a cup of coffee and a conversation where nothing happens. That it threw me off a little bit, but then I actually I appreciate that fast pace. And I'm glad for it. It's just an example of getting things done, and so I would definitely recommend this series. Like I said, sadly, you do have to pre-order like a month ahead of time if you want to get the physical books. So most likely you'll have to be stuck reading this series on Comixology. And I know a lot of people want to have the physical books, but it's just not very going to happen with how far ahead you have to read. Issue 1 was sold out. I couldn't get a copy to save my life. I looked all over the place. Issue 2 has probably also sold out. That's just the way it is. But, again, check out this series. I like it. There are little silly things like the Garou versus the electricity. A little bit cliched with the tropes where I don't do partners. It's like, okay, yeah, dude, whatever. But, that's fine. Tropes are not bad. The reason why we are familiar with them is because they are good, actually. They help familiarize yourself, etc., etc. And then that's the end of it. The rest is just editor's credit, talking to the writer. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hit that like button and subscribe. See ya.